Hey guys, so Israel back again with Heavy Metal Reptiles, and today we're going to go over the special care that a spider ball python requires per request from one of our friends on Instagram. Um, so yeah, they kind of require the same thing as just a normal taking care of a ball python, except for they have some like special requirements sometimes depending on severities of things. So we're going to break it down into sections and kind of go over one by one things you guys may run into. That it's not saying that if you buy one of these you're going to have to deal with this, but it does depend on the severity of some of the problems that come with this particular morph. And she's going to knock herself up in the video. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the first kind of group we got. Okay, so with spider ball pythons, they actually have neurological issues. From my understanding, all of them do. The severity just varies back and forth. They have what they call a wobble, and they don't understand up and down. It's just ball pythons or spider balls. It's a neurological issue they have that, like, if I can set her down real quick, and can you adjust the camera? If I can get her to kind of come up a little bit, and she usually does it on her own, you'll be able to see the wobble, maybe. No, she's not going to do it when I want her to, of course. I mean, they're great for the most part. Everyone I've ever dealt with has a great personality. But you just have some neurological issues. And like I said, the severity varies. The wobble is actually where they kind of, was it periscope, I think is what they call it. I forget, for some reason I'm in brain fart, but when they come up, or when they lift their head up off the ground, they wobble back and forth. So our girl here definitely isn't what I would call a severe case. More of a moderate case, something that you're going to see more often than not with these morphs. So it can definitely be a lot worse than this, and I've personally seen a lot worse than what we have. If you want to go ahead and angle the camera back down real quick, and we'll go over this more, but part of the issue with their neurological stuff is, like I said, they don't understand up and down. So if I take her, no, you don't want to go down now. No, here. If I take her and just set her to the ground, it takes her a second to kind of figure out what she's supposed to do with the ground. And then when you set them, like if I set her upside down like this, how most would just roll over. They just roll their bodies. She doesn't, and she's not. Again, that might have been my fault. I'm sorry, sweetheart. That actually doesn't happen very often where she gets knotted, and she probably could have gotten out of that one. I just don't usually make her get out of those kinds of things. But yeah, the neurological issues is just a mental thing that just kind of makes them a little derpy. They're great snakes. I mean, ours has a great personality to them. I could go, well, there goes the wobble. Nope, you stopped again. Nope, you can do it again. No. Are you stuck? Oh, you're stuck. Come here. You gotta get your head out from, there you go. You can go a lot in depth with these. It's just pretty much the wobble, the stuff that is causing the difference in behavior, the different things they do, is a neurological issue. I could talk for hours about that and really go in depth and break it down, and there's videos out there that do. It's just not necessary. The more important thing is they have a neurological issue, they have a wobble. It's nothing to be concerned about except for severe cases, and they're going to require a little extra attention sometimes. So that was just kind of what causes these special needs, if you will. So we're going to talk about feeding next. Hey guys, so I watched the first part of this video, and I wanted to make a quick blooper in after the video before we move on to the next section, just to make sure I got my point across right and all the information was there, because I didn't feel like I did that very well. That's why I put notes and have a book I read from, is to try and keep me on track for this video. I was like, I already know this, and didn't do a whole lot. So head tremors, in coordination, corkscrewing with the head and neck, where they go woo, and head tilting is like your main things to look for when you're kind of trying to figure out how severe your spider ball's neurological issues are. Just want to throw that in here at the end of this first section because I didn't feel like I explained it good enough the first time. So yeah, thanks. So the reason I want to talk about feeding with these guys is mine came to me eating live, and I can't get her to eat frozen. So luckily for me, she's a great eater. I've never had her on a hunger strike like Firestorm's been on a hunger strike. Courtney, Baphomet, they've all done it to me. She is yet to do it, and I got her and Firestorm about the same time. And the biggest problem with her eating is she doesn't have good aim, is the best way to describe it. So when she strikes at something to bite it, it's just, it's funny to watch. It's sad, but it's funny. She just doesn't get where she's supposed to strike. She'll smell it and she'll just start striking. There's been times when I've opened the cage and she strikes at me thinking she's striking at the mouse, and the mouse is on the opposite side of the cage. It's fine, just something to watch out for if you're feeding live, is where they're actually grabbing a hold of the rat or the mouse. Firestorm always gets his pretty much right behind the back of the head and then wraps up the body, so he knows what he's doing. I've had issues where I've had to hold the mouse away from her, or her head away from him, because she bit the butt. I mean, and I know all snakes do that, but for these guys it can just be, especially if they don't actually bite the mouse. So she hasn't done it to me yet, but there has been instances where they have went to bite the mouse and actually bit themselves and caused damage to themselves as far as bleeding and things like that. Nothing severe that I've heard of. Not saying that it hasn't happened, but there's just things with this targeting that they lack because of the neurological problems, that you have to be extra careful when you're feeding. Personally, if you can get them to eat frozen, I would get them to eat frozen. All around, it's more safe, it's going to be less stressful, and just a better experience for you as an owner having a spider ball. So, and another thing to watch for when they're eating is they actually sometimes don't know where they are, so they can get themselves in a position where they can bite but not wrap the mouse. She's done that to me before, where she's actually had herself in a position in the enclosure where she has gotten a hold of the mouse but not able to wrap it up and actually constrict it. So we're going to go ahead and move on to body language. So body language with these guys, although it'll be similar to your normal ball pythons, I've noticed with her she doesn't give me the same signs as the other ball pythons do that I have, which isn't a bad thing. Like, she's not striky. She's probably the most trustworthy out of the collection right now, in my personal opinion. Baphomet's hissed and struck at me, even though I trust him when I have him out, because I trust that his mood doesn't change, because it just doesn't. Whatever mood you get him out in is the mood he's in. Firestorm, I've had him out before and he struck at me out of nowhere. Courtney, we've all seen Courtney. So, our Black Widow here is definitely our most trustworthy ball python. But with that being said, they don't give you the same stop signs that your normal ball python's going to give you. She doesn't get in an S stance before she strikes. Even when she strikes at her food, she just comes straight out and into it. She doesn't give any of the normal ball python signs. And like how she's sitting on me right now, with a lot of them, they wouldn't be doing this. She's tightened up here, and the way she has her head positioned, for the other snakes I have, this would tell me that they were getting ready to bite me. For her, 9 out of 10 times, she ends up being a bracelet. She just wraps around my arm and hangs out. So they're kind of unpredictable, and as long as you've got a good one, and again, this is what I've talked about 100 times, knowing your snake, you should know what kind of temper they have to begin with, and kind of still be able to read them as you get to know your spider. But they definitely are different when it comes to their behavior and body language. So we're going to move on to the next one, which is kind of important. It's about soaking, which is something that's going to kind of fall into enclosures too when we talk about the enclosure setup. So we'll kind of roll into that next. Okay, with spider balls, you have to make sure that when you're soaking, you're keeping the water level at a reasonable height. So people have actually had their spider balls drown before, and it is because they filled the water up too much. And with a spider ball, how I can soak my other snakes and kind of walk away, not like out of the room, but I can keep them, like say here on my table, and I can go sit on my couch and I can see them through the side of where they're soaking. I can do that with them because I can look over and see and make sure. With her, I actually do not leave her more than a couple feet from me when she's soaking, because like I explained, they don't understand up and down. They don't get the up and down thing. They don't understand if you go down, you go underwater, and if you go up, you're out of water. So when I actually soak her, I do about 1/2 to 3/4 the thickest part of her body is what I fill up when I soak her, just to kind of cut down that risk. Now, I don't soak a whole lot because since I've dialed in my humidities, all my snakes have full sheds, no problems. As long as I had them for that full cycle. Sometimes you get a new snake and they're in the middle of a shed, or they're getting ready for a shed, or they're still adapting or adjusting to the new enclosure, so it gets flaky. But it's been about a year since I've had a bad shed out of anything that I personally have been taking care of. So I don't usually soak, and with her, it's a risk to reward. There's a huge risk there, even if you're constantly paying attention to them and stuff. There's still a risk there of them getting water in their lungs and things, which a little bit, I mean, isn't going to matter, but you still don't want it to happen. So we're going to go ahead and move into enclosures and kind of touch base on their water bowl also. So we're going to go ahead and start out with their water bowl in the enclosure setup. You actually want to keep a little less water in their water bowl too. Like I said, the water level you want to keep between 1/2 to 3/4 of the thickest part of their body in order for them to kind of be safe. That's something they're going to get in and out of on their own. So obviously you can't be there 24/7 to watch. It's just going to make it a little bit safer for the snake, and something I do. They still have that option to soak and thermal regulate, but it kind of takes away a little bit of the risk factor of it. While we're on enclosures, I know that it is frowned upon in this hobby to not clutter the crap out of their cages. Depending on the severity of the neurological issues with your ball or spider ball, depends on what you can do with their cages. So, like I said, ours isn't the worst, but it's bad enough that I don't like to use a lot of vines. So I had this vine that went all the way around her cage when I first got her, and I actually found her tangled up in a knot in her vine. She just, I don't know what happened, but she got tangled up and tied up in the knot. Before that, I actually had to untangle her when she was eating one time because she tangled herself in the vine when she was eating. The second time it happened, I said, I'm done. Switched out the vine and put on one of those suction cup vine things that hang down, and I use those for her now because it gives her the cover, but it's less likely she's going to get tangled up. And like I said, that people might argue that, oh, you're not supposed to do that, but for me, that has been successful. She hasn't gotten tangled. She doesn't show any behavior signs that would concern me, like she doesn't feel safe or something. So I personally, it's one of those trial and error things. Keep an eye on them when you first get them and you get their enclosure set up to make sure that it's going to work for them. Like I said, I use those suction cup things. I've seen people that do use vines and things, and I've seen people that just leave them wide open because it's so bad that they can't have anything in there, and they don't even give them that big of a water bowl. It's just knowing your snake. You know, do your research, go through, you know, if you're watching this video, go through a bunch more videos and make sure you know all possible angles. It's not necessarily how much I can sit here and tell you, but for you to see it firsthand and have an idea of how bad the spider ball that you're getting could be. Like I said, mine's a very mild case. I've seen way worse than what she is. So, you know, and one thing I didn't talk about with feeding, so I'm going to revisit to that real quick. Assist feeding has to happen sometimes with the spider balls, simply because they have no aim at all and they can't eat. So that's something to think about too, is you could possibly have to assist feed. I've had to assist feed her before, but hers was a little bit different than actually assist feeding. I just had to hold the live rat in front of her, hold it down so she was able to, or mouse, my bad, but hold it down so she was able to actually get it. But those are things you got to think about. I don't like doing that, but I bought the snake. I knew what it was when I bought it and what it could be. So go ahead and move on to the outro. Alright guys, so I hope this video helped you a little bit. I didn't write my notes like I usually do to make sure like I bullet point each group, because my ADHD kicks in and it screws my whole videos up all the time. But I hope you took something from it. I'm sorry that it wasn't as good as it could be. But if you have any questions, feel free to comment, get on my Instagram and message me. I'll answer your questions. I'll work a little bit on maybe finding some other resources you guys could look at to see a worst case. I know Go Herping has a video on spider balls too, where he actually uses videos of one that he had or still has, and other videos from other ball pythons that have a worse wobble. And this isn't the only morph either that suffers from this. So they're cute and cuddly. Kind of wish they would stop breeding them, but at the same time, if they stopped breeding them, I wouldn't be able to get one. So it's kind of a catch-22. I mean, just know what you're getting into and be ready to give them the best life you can. Normal, like, subscribe, and follow. All the fun stuff. Links are in the description for Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And like I've said before, you can comment on the YouTube videos. I'm definitely going to see Instagram, though, before I see any comments on the YouTube videos. So thanks for watching, guys, and rock on, friends. I'll see you in the next video.